If Arjuna's sorrow finds satisfaction within itself and then ceases, it becomes irreligious. If it simply comes to an end, it too becomes irreligious. However, if sorrow turns into a journey, becoming like the Gangotri from which the Ganga flows and reaches the ocean of bliss, then it is religious. Sorrow itself is neither irreligious nor religious. If sorrow closes off the personality, it leads to self-destruction. Yet, if sorrow allows the personality to flow, it becomes a force for self-transformation. Paul Tillich's assertion that despair itself is religious, that sorrow in itself is religious, is an incomplete truth. Tillich's statement is not the full truth, but only a half-truth. Sorrow has the potential to become religious, but it requires the condition of becoming a flowing force. If sadness becomes circular, if it revolves around itself, it can only lead to self-destruction and not to anything religious. It's fascinating that a person on the brink of self-destruction arrives at a point where they must either transform their soul or take their life. What is certain is that the old soul can no longer sustain itself. So, one might argue that even suicide is religious, but that too would be an incomplete truth, much like what Paul Tillich said. A person in a suicidal state faces two options: either they kill themselves, which is entirely irreligious, or they change themselves, which is an even deeper form of self-annihilation, leading them to a religious transformation. Buddha reached a point where he either had to commit suicide or transform himself. Mahavira, too, faced such a crossroads. Arjuna stands at a similar juncture where he must choose between self-destruction or changing himself and elevating his consciousness. Paul Tillich's statement is incomplete because the fundamental truth of Christianity is incomplete. This incompleteness is why Christianity has faded, and Paul Tillich, despite being a great interpreter of Christianity in the modern age, does not present a complete vision. The aspect of Jesus that Christianity has grasped is one of disappearance, and no other aspect has been understood. Christianity lacks a smiling, joyful image of Jesus, one that proclaims truth consciousness bliss. Instead, the cross has become the symbol of Christianity, an emblem of despair rather than something inherently religious. This despair, and the cross itself, may or may not be religious. Tillich is mistaken when he criticizes Bertrand Russell, claiming that people like Russell are self-deceivers. Bertrand Russell, an atheist with no faith in God, does not experience the sense of emptiness or meaninglessness that Sartre or Camus do. One might question why Russell, despite his atheism, does not suffer from such emptiness. It's not a necessity because atheism, in my view, can take two forms: one that is closed in on itself and one that flows outward. An atheist who closes in on himself, like a person who shuts themselves off, will become empty. A person who bases their life on the word no will inevitably feel empty because nothing sprouts from the seed of negation, no flowers bloom, and no life develops. Life requires a balance between affirmation and negation, and if atheism is grounded in a no, life becomes empty. However, atheism can also stand on a yes. Bertrand Russell's atheism is grounded in a yes. He denies God but does not deny love. A person who embraces love cannot be dismissed as an atheist by a foolish theist because, in a profound way, such a person is accepting God. Russell's acceptance is not formal. He does not place idols in a temple or ring bells. But there's no reason to assume that those who do so are true believers. Theism is not about ringing bells, it is about living a life infused with the voice of love. For those who have love in their lives, prayer is not far away, and neither is God. Love is a profound affirmation of existence. Thus, I consider Bertrand Russell an atheist only in the formal sense. In the same way that many people are theists only in the formal sense, Russell's atheism is moving toward theism. It is dynamic and expanding. He can find joy even in the simplest of things. Our theist may go to the temple to offer flowers, but they cannot appreciate the beauty of the flower. When they pluck a living flower to offer it to a stone idol, they show that, deep down, they are atheists. They have no real acceptance of existence or any perception of God within it. Their theism is self-deception. Bertrand Russell's atheism, on the other hand, is not self-deception because he is a sincere, honest person. An honest person does not easily become a believer. It is the dishonest who often take the easy route to belief. The person who claims belief in God without having searched for Him is the most dishonest of all. The person who accepts something as profound as God simply by reading it in a book is self-deceptive to the highest degree. God is not something to be taken lightly, nor is it something connected to the principles taught by parents. God is the result of a profound search and a deep existential pain, attainable only through immense sorrow, austerity, denial, suffering, emptiness, and difficulty. Perhaps it is after many lifetimes of wandering, searching, and failing that one might experience the truth that gives rise to true faith. I believe Bertrand Russell is on such a journey, which is why he does not experience emptiness. Sartre, on the other hand, is empty because his atheism is closed and self-contained, leading to a sense of inner emptiness. A person who bases their life on negation sows seeds in a desert where nothing can bloom. There is no desert greater than negation. Even the deserts of the earth have oases, but in the desert of negation, there is no oasis, no greenery. Greenery only thrives in affirmation. Only a theist can be truly vibrant and full, capable of appreciating the beauty of life, something an atheist cannot. However, atheism and theism both have two sides. Atheism becomes dangerous when it closes in on itself, and theism becomes dangerous when it is borrowed. The danger of theism lies in its borrowed nature, and the danger of atheism lies in its self-enclosure. Most believers on earth are merely borrowing their beliefs. Without the honesty to be an atheist, the monumental step of becoming a true theist is impossible. I believe atheism is the first step toward becoming a theist. Atheism serves as preparation for affirmation, and the strength of affirmation is only as powerful as the courage to deny. The life and soul of affirmation are only as strong as the courage to say no. I consider Bertrand Russell a person in the phase of atheism who is searching, and he cannot say yes without first searching. In this sense, he is religious. I call Russell an atheist, but a religious one, and the so-called theists, I consider theists but irreligious. These terms may seem contradictory, but they are not. Arjuna's sorrow is profoundly religious because it is dynamic. If he wished, he could have simply agreed with Krishna, saying, "Whatever you say, I will fight." But instead, he fights with Krishna. The courage to challenge someone like Krishna is not ordinary. Krishna's very presence inclines one to say yes, and it takes great courage to say no to such a personality, to raise questions and doubts. Yet, Arjuna does not give up his questioning. He does not fear being labeled as a non-believer or a doubter. If he had simply accepted Krishna as his guru without questioning, his theism would have been borrowed. But no, Arjuna is in search of authentic theism. This is why the long discourse of the Gita took place. Arjuna keeps questioning, keeps challenging, and Krishna, who could have emphasized his greatness, chooses not to. If Krishna had any attachment to being a guru, he could have asserted himself. But a true theist does not desire to be a guru. If God exists, there is no need for anyone else to be a guru. A true believer in God does not view questions as doubts or criticisms but understands that the questioner is on a journey and will reach the truth eventually. If the Ganges is flowing, it will reach the ocean. It may not yet know the ocean exists, but as long as it flows, it will reach. Krishna does not say, "Stop and accept." If the Ganges stops and prematurely believes it has reached the ocean, it will stagnate and become a rotten puddle, mistaking that for the ocean. Arjuna is not such a theist. There is a similarity between Arjuna and Bertrand Russell. As I mentioned earlier, there is also a similarity between Arjuna and Sartre. Arjuna, like Sartre, is troubled, but beyond that, their similarities end. Sartre turns his anxiety into a theory, while Arjuna turns his anxiety into a series of questions, akin to Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell is an agnostic who continued to question until the end of his life. The difference is that Russell did not find his Krishna, but there is no harm in that, he will find him someday. What matters is that the journey continues. I believe that on this earth, the theists like Paul Tillich surrounding Bertrand Russell are insincere. Paul Tillich may be a self-deceiver, but Russell is not. I also believe that Bertrand Russell has moved closer to theism, whereas Paul Tillich has remained stagnant as a theologian. It is intriguing that the greatest enemy of religion is not irreligion but theology and religious doctrine. Those who are entrenched in doctrine can never become truly religious. Religion transcends the intellect, whereas doctrine and theology are confined to it. The intellect does not go beyond itself, it revolves around itself, much like a whirlpool or a pit. Religion flows outward like the Ganges, not inward. It is dynamic and expanding. Bertrand Russell's journey is one of continuous questioning, and that is why I consider him closer to Krishna than Paul Tillich. Russell is on a journey to the Gita, while Tillich remains stuck in doctrine. Bertrand Russell, in his atheism, is on a journey to become a theist. He is on the path, but the so-called theists are lost. They are bound to doctrine, while Bertrand Russell remains unbound, free to question. In this freedom, I see the potential for true faith.